A three-line seed is very much in play for Arizona, but they have to take care of some business first.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. Locked on your team every day. All right, we got a lot to get to this show. We are going to talk about, obviously, Arizona, Iowa State, the Caleb Love Revenge Tour. We're also going to talk about, let's see here, what the meaning of a win would be, possibly a little bit of recruiting, and on top of that, a little bit more Arizona basketball. So let's get started here. Arizona beat Iowa State in McHale, and this was probably not a game that Arizona should have won. To put it mildly, I thought that coming away from that, I thought that Iowa State was the better team for a good percentage of the game. But Caleb Love also did not play very well during that game until he made a 70-foot shot. And then in overtime, he took over. It was the most Caleb Love experience ever. And the dude is an absolute monster. He's been very, very good offensively since then. He's got to be able to continue that. Against high-quality teams, Caleb Love has to be that dude. And when I say that he's got to be that dude, he's got to be that guy. And I think that an interesting part about all of this is why you brought him in. You brought him in to be able to be that player because, a lot of times you bring in transfers and you're just kind of like, okay, just need you to basically kind of just, tread water, do what you can, and then we'll get the big dogs in there. But it's obviously a little bit different with Caleb Love. You brought Caleb Love in to be an All-American type player. Last year he was a third-team All-American. This year, he has not been that player, but he is playing much, much better of late. And I think that's what you need to continue to see from Mr. Caleb Love. And I'm excited about that because, again, the whole Caleb Love experience has been fantastic. It's been fun to watch. It's just been really, really good. I don't think there's any other way to put it. But a lot of people are going crazy with him, but he's got this reputation by a lot of people though. And they say, well, he's not a big game player. That's not true. That's not true. Some of his best games have come against the best teams Arizona's played. Last year against Purdue, he was the best player on the court. What'd he finish with? 28 points, 33 points, something like that. Purdue played in the national championship game. This year, he's had some games against big teams. You look back at North Carolina in that Final Four game against Duke, he was the one that was the best player on the court. He was the one that hit that game-sealing shot to send North Carolina into the national championship game. He has had a lot of big-time performances. The key with him, though, obviously, is getting to the point where you can win games and where you can win games and without him shooting great. Because again, as we've talked about before, there's going to be a lot of games where Caleb Love is not going to shoot great because he's not a great shooter. It's that simple. I don't know what else to say. Not a great shooter. But you should be able to get to a certain point where you're like, all right, if the shot's not falling, you can still get your 20 points, whatever the case may be. And I think that's going to be a big part of what Arizona is going to try to do here. Now, I think I think a big part of also of this is where is this Arizona perimeter? Caleb Love. KJ Lewis is going to have to play big in this game. KJ has been really up and down this season. There are some times where you're like, man, he was really good, and then there are some times where you're like, what the heck was that? And that has been that's just kind of been a hallmark because again, he plays really hard, but he also does some really, really silly things in this. For this team, and that's just kind of the way it is. He's going to have to play well. Iowa State then is going to also be should be fully healthy in this game, and if they're fully healthy, then it's obviously a really, really good team. But KJ is going to have to be able to guard a bunch of different guys in this game. I could see him having to guard 1 through 3 at some point. He's going to have to play a lot, and he's going to have to play well, period. That's all I said. He's going to have to play a lot, and he's going to have to play well. Okay, now, What else then with this team? So let's start breaking down a little bit of some of these matchups. And first, why don't we start up front and then we're going to work backwards from there. Now, Trey Townsend, this is a game. This is not a Trey Townsend game. Period. This is not a game where I really want him playing a lot because you've got two good active big men that can both rebound. And listen, you start up front with Deshaun Jackson. He's been around forever. He kid out of Vallejo, California, was at Washington State. Then after that, he was he's gone to Iowa State, and he's good. He's about 10-6 and 10-6, and he's good. 10-6, 12-6, 11-6. He's good. He blocks shots. He gets in there. He throws himself around. He's got a lot of girth. And then you've also got Joshua Jefferson. He's really good. He's a lot better than I thought. He is also a player that Arizona could have definitely used. If Arizona had Joshua Jefferson, he would be a difference maker for Arizona. He's really, really good. This is not the kind of game where you can play Trey Townsend. It's just not. You can't play Trey Townsend in this game. He's going to play, but you can't really play him in this game because he doesn't rebound. Both those guys are just going to stand there and get rebounds and just do whatever the heck they want. So this is going to have to be a game where you've got Henri and you got Tobe, and you've got to flank them with Carter Bryant. Henri against Deshaun Jackson, I'm more than okay with that. Henri can block shots. Henri can shoot. Henri can do a lot of different things. So I am more than okay with Henri in that role. I'm also more than okay with Henri shooting threes at this point. That's something that I don't think, as the kids would say, that's not on your bingo card, as the kids would say. But I'm more than okay with that. And as a matter of fact, I think that Arizona needs to do that. This is going to be a big game for Henri. Henri's got to be a difference maker in this game. If Henri is a difference maker in this game, then I think Arizona's got a very good chance of winning this game because they need Henri to come out there, and they need Henri to absolutely be a baller. And he's done that so far this year. So there's definitely that in play. Now, when you're looking at how the rest of this team folds out, Tobe Awaka, again, he's got to play well. He's got to get rebounds. Now, listen, there's going to be some games where Tobe is not going for 20 and 10. But at the same time, he's got to be able to get rebounds. And along with him and Henri, that's got to be the kind of game where both of those dudes are really taking advantage in the middle. Those guys have to at least play Iowa State to a standstill. In my opinion, in this game, they have to be able to do that. And if they do that, then I think, then you take your chances on the perimeter. And if anything, I think Arizona can outplay them. So that's going to be a big part. Those two big men. And then Trey Townsend, again, we're kind of at the stage now with Trey Townsend where I think we know that you're just trying to kind of steal some minutes with him. And that would be very, very nice. If you can get 12 minutes out of him, but I can't have 25 to 28 minutes per game. It's time to win basketball games at this stage. I can't have him out there doing that because, again, that's just going to be utterly destructive for everybody involved. He's not going to get rebounds. He's not going to really do a ton. You have to be able to get as many quality minutes out of your starters as you can. And if that means that you play Carter sometimes at the 4, cool. But I can't have a non-rebounder in there. And I think that's my main concern about Trey, is that Trey is a non-rebounder. And, he can't really, unless the ball comes right to him, he's not getting it. So you've got those other 3 guys, they can go get the ball. Henri Veesaar can get the ball. Tobe Awaka can get the ball. Carter Bryant can get the ball. This dude, he can't really get the ball. And that's not really, I don't know if it's his fault, whatever it is, but this isn't a game for him. So you got to be able to play him to the standstill and steal as many minutes. Now, the perimeter is also something where I think Arizona is going to be in a very interesting situation. But first, Fabric. Fabric, my friends. Fabric. Check it out. All right, here's the deal. Life moves fast. You guys all know that. I mean, heck, everybody knows. Excuse me. Life moves fast. Excuse me. Wow. Especially when you have a family. One day you're watching your kids and you're watching them take their next steps. Then they're off to college. We've all seen it. Even if you don't have kids, you know how that drill goes. And the thing about it too is that you want to be able to have a life life insurance policy for them that really fits into their goal. With Fabric, you can apply for life insurance online right from the couch. You don't have to go in and meet with 35 adjusters or whatever, and you can be covered in under 10 minutes, and in many cases no health exam is required. So it's very user friendly in that regard. Get peace of mind, affordable coverage, and beyond life insurance. Join the thousands of patients who trust Fabric to help protect their families. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/lockedon. That's meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. Locked On College is the lock. Now again, policies issued by Western Southern Life Insurance, not a company, not available in certain states. Price subject to underwriting and health questions. But again, get that peace of mind in there because again, at this stage in the game, you never know what tomorrow brings. Sleep better at night with that. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. Locked on your team every day. Now, let's talk a little bit about the perimeter for Arizona and Iowa State in this game. And the first one that you got, and again, this is also something too that you got to factor in, is that Milan Momcilovic was not did not play in the first game. And while it's not like he's Dirk Nowitzki, he's also a very good three-point shooter. What has Arizona had a problem at times this year doing? Guarding the three-point shooter. Duh. This is going to be an interesting game for the Wildcats because he's a shooter. He's a spacer, as the kids like to say, and he's very, very good. So with that, it's like kind of like you got to be able to guard him. He wasn't in there. And he's just a really, really, really good player for what they do. I don't know what you're doing with him, but I don't know. I can see KJ on him at times, but he's a little bit like ADO, not totally like ADO, but a little bit like him. So there's that. So Arizona, you got to be wary of him from the 3-point line. He was not there before. You have to be wary of him. Now the two guards. This is where it gets interesting for me. Arizona, Jaden Bradley and Caleb Love have to at least play their two guards to a standstill for Arizona to win this game. Period. You got to be able to do it. You got to be able to play those guys to a standstill. And there's a couple of them in there as well. And they're guys that you don't want to forget about. The first one is obviously you got a lot of them, but Keyshawn Gilbert has been out. Keyshawn Gilbert's going to play in this game. TJ Elselberger said that. He's really, really good. He is, he's 15 points, 5 assists per game. Just a steady player that's also capable. He's an all-conference type dude. He's a good player, and Arizona is going to have to be able to match up with him. He's been out. He's going to be back, and it sounds like he is going to be ready to go. So Arizona's going to have to be ready for him. Besides him, too, you got Curtis Jones. Curtis Jones is also a scorer. Curtis Jones, a little bit like Caleb Love. That's going to be a matchup that, Caleb Love did a very, very good job defending in that first game. A very good job. He's got to be able to continue that, though. He's got to continue to build on what he did in that first game. And if he builds on what he did in that first game, then I think you feel pretty good about where Arizona could potentially be in all of this because he is the defensively, he has done a very, very nice job. He's just got to continue to do what he's been doing. He took a little bit of a step back against BYU, but heck, the entire team did. That's going to be a big matchup for him. Caleb Love and Curtis Jones is going to be a big, big matchup, and I think that's going to decide this game. Then you've also got Tamin Lipsey. It seems like he's been around forever, but he's also very good. I don't necessarily worry about him per se like some of the other ones, but he is still a dude that is he's still a good player though, and he's solid. You like him. He's good. So the team, like I said, Iowa State's a good team. They're not super deep, but the thing about them, too, is that they got a lot of continuity going. These guys have played together for a long time. They know each other. Not only do they know each other, they also know that I think they kind of what you see is what you get with them. And they came into this year as a preseason top 5 team for a reason, and they should be. When you return that kind of talent, you should be you're going to be on the radar very, very quickly for a lot of teams, and that's exactly what they are. So going forward, though, Arizona, has as much raw talent as Iowa State. They just do, period. So how does Arizona then go ahead and win this game? Their best players got to play well. Period. Your best players got to play well. And that's kind of what this comes down to. Caleb Love is your best player. He's got to play well. And that doesn't necessarily mean that, you got to, that he's got to be 8 of 10 from 3-point range or whatever the case may be, but he's got to play well. He's got to get downhill. He's got to get to the bucket. He's got to do a lot of different things. And if he can do those, then Arizona's going to be in pretty good shape. Some other guys too, they're role players. ADO, I like ADO a lot. A lot of people don't like ADO, whatever. I get it, but I like ADO. I think ADO is a good player. I think he gets beat up too much. He can make the three, and he's a much more clever finisher around the basket than people give credit for. He's a good basketball player. Is he perfect? No, but he's a good basketball player, and if he could make a couple threes, that'd be awesome. Now, Jaden Bradley, I think in this game with Jaden Bradley, you worry, you're just kind of at the stage with him. You're like, is he wearing down a little bit? That's my main concern. Is he wearing down a little bit? Because he's been steady Eddie pretty much this entire season. And then he's kind of, taken a little bit of a step back. But you got to remember, too, he's Arizona's only ball handler. I know that Arizona went into the season hoping that KJ Lewis could be that guy. KJ can do a lot of things. Running the point isn't one of them. And, is what it is. But KJ can do a lot of really good things, and I think KJ is going to have a very good game in this one, especially too getting to the basket as well. KJ is just kind of a mercurial player in that there's going to be some games where you're like, okay, what were you just doing there? And then there's going to be some games where he's the best player on the court. I mean, that's just kind of the way that the KJ Lewis, you could almost call it the KJ Lewis experience to a certain degree as well. But that's just kind of how it is. Now, a couple other guys, too, that you got to keep in mind here as well. Obviously, Tobe Awaka, talked about him earlier, but we're going to talk about him again. He's got to control that paint. If he can control the paint, then I think Arizona can do some really, really good things. He's got to be able to control the paint, though. He is in here for a reason. He's in there to get rebounds and finish around the bucket, and when he does that, he's very, very good. The problem, though, too, is that, sometimes against length, he just isn't as good, and that can be a little bit of an issue. Sometimes against length, he just struggles to a certain degree, and we'll find out. But again, I think he should be okay in this game. Now, what would this team mean, though? If Arizona could win this game, what would that mean for this team? Because honestly, Arizona's got a lot to play for in this game. Well, I mean, heck, they got a lot to play for all season, but they especially have a lot to play for because if you win this game, you're looking at something that could be very, very enticing. But first, PrizePicks. Okay, here's the deal with PrizePicks. March basketball is here, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with PrizePicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. The great thing about PrizePicks is you pick more or less, or at least you get 2 players, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. It's easy, fast, and never-ending excitement. Basically, it works like this. Let's say that you like Anthony Davis for the over of 21 points, or whatever the case may be, and you're also like Luka Doncic over 8 assists. You could parlay those together, and you could make some pretty good money, quick and easy. And again, you can make the picks in less than 60 seconds and stay engaged all game long. It is fun. Taco Tuesday deals. PrizePicks even offers weekly promos like Taco Tuesday, where you get discounted player projections for even more value. Check it out. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly. After you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, PrizePicks, run your game. March Madness is here. Have some fun with it because, again, you got a little bit more skin in the game. It makes it even more enjoyable. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. Okay, now, Let's talk about what a win would mean. A win would be very, very nice for Arizona. I don't think that we can really. I don't think that we can really emphasize that enough. How important that would be for Arizona. If you get that, you're squarely on the 3 line. And I think that when you're squarely on the 3 line, you're also in the you start talking about avoiding that 4. You could be in different a closer region. But this game means a lot. This would be a massive win. This would be Arizona's best win of the season, going into a top 10 team's place and beating them in a raucous environment. This would be big for Arizona. And honestly, it's something that if you look at that, you're like, okay, can Arizona win out from here on out? That's where it would be, like I said, that's where it would be interesting to see. But if Arizona wins this game, it would be huge. You start saying, okay, now you got ASU Tuesday. And then you've got Kansas to close out the season. Then you got the Big 12 tournament. Then you got the NCAA tournament. This is going to have very much of an NCAA tournament type vibe to it. And if Arizona, like I said, if Arizona can get this dub, then you got to feel that you could basically get it. You can basically beat any team. Again, though, this game to me, a lot of it's going to come down to Caleb Love. Again, if he's not making his 3, I get it. Cool. But he's got to be able to do other things. He's got to be able to get to the bucket. He's got to be able, I mean, that's just what, when you're a talented guy, you got to do a lot of different things and that's what he can do. He's got to get downhill. And because the other thing too, when he gets downhill and he gets to the bucket, those free throws are automatic. He's not missing them. He is a super clutch free throw shooter. He's shown that time and time again throughout his career. And he wants that moment. So again, there's that. And up front, Arizona has to take care of business here. Listen, Henri Veesaar is very, very good. He's got to be, he's more athletic and he's longer than Deshaun Jackson. So he's got to be able to exert some of that. He's got to be able to alter some shots. He's got to be able to finish around the bucket. And I don't see any reason why he can't. And then Tobe, we've talked about him at length. And then KJ. You gotta play to your strengths. You play to your strengths, then you're going to be good. This is the kind of game that you're built for. Don't try to do a bunch of different things where you just dribble the ball and because again, that's not your game. That's not what you're good at. And then Carter Bryant. Carter Bryant has been a revelation. I mean, he shouldn't have been a revelation, but the more he's played, the better Arizona's been. Hard to believe. And it's easy to see why. He makes threes. He can block shots. Listen, he's going to do a couple really stupid fouls each game, and he's going to believe that he didn't commit those fouls. But overall, you take those because of what he can bring. You really hope that you can get a second year out of Carter. If you can get a second year out of Carter, then I think you're looking at an All-American type player, and I think you're looking at a top 5 preseason team in the country. That's just how good he is. But that's going to be a big one for Arizona to see how that does play out. Then Jane Bradley, I know you're going to have to play the whole game. I mean, I get that it stinks, at times, but you're going to have to play the whole game. You can't come out because, again, guys like Conrad, they're not an option. And that is one thing that Tommy Lloyd definitely messed up this year, is not having another ball handler. I think Tommy Lloyd would admit it. But Conrad, again, was a guy that was just, I mean, it's cool that he's on scholarship, whatever. You didn't fill out all your scholarships. I get it. But a guy like that, if you don't ever see him being able to play in a meaningful spot, I don't know how you really offer him, but that is what it is. Arizona's got to get another ball handler, but they don't have that this year, which means that Jane Bradley is going to have to play the whole game, and Jane Bradley can't get any ticky-tack fouls. He's got to be able to play smart basketball. If he plays smart basketball, he will. If he plays smart basketball, you'll be in a pretty good spot, and I think that's where it is. He's just got to try to revert back to that previous form. Now, as far as a prediction, I get it. I'm being a homer. Don't care. I am backing the A on this one. I am going 83 and 83, Arizona 83, and I am going Iowa State 79. I think the Cats get the dub, and I think you're squarely right back onto that 3 line. And you're like, okay, now let's get ASU and let's get Kansas and let's move on from there. But tomorrow, we will be back with you on the post-game show, though, breaking everything down. There's going to be a lot to get to. But as always, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. Bear down, back the A, and again, going Arizona 83, Iowa State 79. We'll be back with you on the postgame. You have been listening to Locked On Wildcats, your team every day.